So Ptahhotep once told us that we should learn from the wise as well as the unwise. And who is more unwise than children? I'm sitting on a bus, and a child was rather raucous and rambunctious, if you will. They were moving along, moving about, furrying and flirting, whatever words you want to say. What happened was that this child had a pencil in his pocket, and the pencil kept jutting me, maybe once or twice, but enough for me to say, hey, cool it with the pencil. But I didn't say it because sometimes you can't speak the language. Not only can you not speak the language of children, you just can't speak the language because the children where I'm at speak another language. They speak Swahili, I speak English. I try to speak Swahili, they try to speak English. It's not always effective. That said, I didn't say much, but I did kind of, look at my arm like, oh my gosh, just got stabbed in the arm by a sharp pencil because he had the pencil point tipped up. I don't know if the child he was speaking with noticed, but the child he was speaking with took his pencil for whatever reason. I don't know. Again, I don't speak the language of children. So afterward, the boy who took the pencil, instead of saying something like, hey man, you're stabbing that guy with a pencil or something useful, he pretends to lose it or pretends to hide it. And so the other kid starts to punch him repeatedly, probably in the arm or the shoulder. Not really to do massive bodily harm, but, in between, pointing his finger like, hey, you have my pencil, or return my pencil to me. Eventually the boy does return the pencil, and, a part of me was a little bit concerned for the little boy because, I have a son myself, and, clearly this was demonstrative of what we in the West would like to call bullying. But I didn't. And not just because I don't speak the language of children, but because I realized the boy was stolen from. The other boy was a thief. And even though the boy might have, maybe in his imagination, seemed to think that he was helping me, the reality is that you shouldn't discourage violence if it's for corrective behavior. Okay? And that is really the basis of society. The basis of society is that there is the glue, or even the prime motivator of our story, or even if you want to call his story, right? But the main motivator is violence. The main glue is violence, right? And how you use violence and how you don't use violence is probably the most important question that we have in quote-unquote civilization or quote-unquote society. That's stated. You have this notion, right? I mean, basically, you see one kid pummeling another kid, and you want to say, hey, look, don't do that, right? Don't do that, that's not right. And you want to even tell the other boy, hey, don't associate with this clown who's attacking you. And it's true, if it were my son, I would say, hey man, don't associate with that clown or even hit back, right? But what really happens is that this one boy steals the other boy's pencil. No explanation. Or maybe there was an explanation, I don't know. Either way, as much as, I look at the boy and, the boy kind of, seems a little sad that he was just punched a few times. Or even, like trying to like hide his bravado, even though he was, rightly handled. But I mean, I couldn't advocate for him. Now, eventually the other boy, who was the bully in this case, did like accidentally kick me. Not kick me, but it was on a bus and he threw his feet up and his feet touched my arm and I grabbed him and said, hey man, cool it, But that again is just another example of how violence is really the glue. And I think that's really important for us because one of the things that we do, good afternoon, one of the things that we do, good afternoon. One of the things that we do is we tend to say that violence is bad. Okay? We tend to say violence is bad, and we even say things like, oh, like I was watching this video the other day, and this lady was saying something like, the reason why Wazungu colonized Africa is because of some deep insecurity. And I think we have to understand that, of course, we don't like to be the victims of violence, right? But if you are trying to establish your own security, right? If you have an insecurity, like let's say food shortage or water shortage or what have you, and you're trying to rectify that situation through violent means, you are, by your own sort of measurement, doing something just and justified. Because one of the things that we don't know why we're on this earth. I'll put it that way. We don't know why we're on this earth, and we can suspect one or two reasons, right? We can suspect one or two reasons, but one of the things that we are doing on this earth at this very moment is surviving. One of these things that we're doing at this very moment is securing our life. When we go to eat, we secure our day as best we can. When we avoid the shootout next down the street, or we avoid the war zone, we are securing our life as best we can. So that is something that we are doing. And of course, if we are not avoiding the war and we're there on the battlefield with our guns and so forth, we're securing our household. So the idea that, good afternoon, the idea that we are going against insecurity, that some sort of insecurity makes us inferior or something, or what have you, or not us really, but colonizers, it might not necessarily hold up to examination. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say. So hopefully you guys understand that, a lot of times we discourage violence in men and women and children, and of course, you don't really want women and children to necessarily practice that violence when men can, or when men are. However, it's really that sort of sense that's what westernization has done to us, to kind of take that away from us. And yet, if we really study how the past works, how every story works, it's really the violent who win. The more violent win, and the less violent lose. And it's always been that way. Anyway, hope you understand.